I want to thank Senator Celsey for addressing a major issue with this bill. While it seeks to immunize schools from lawsuits, it does not and cannot when it comes to federally protected civil rights claims. So if a school is faced with a lawsuit in federal court, this body will have mandated the action for which a school will be forced to pay damages. So this legislature forces our schools and our college to put themselves at risk, and then we'll shrug and say, don't worry about the consequences. It doesn't deal with the reality that we as a state legislature cannot control the NCAA, NAIA, sports-specific governing bodies, interstate school conferences and leagues, as they set standards for participation and competition. Rules and regulations that may very well show reasonable ways to allow transgender athletes to participate and compete without unfairly impacting their civil rights. Rules and regulations that show reasonable standards that should have been adopted here in Iowa, and that this bill's failure to do so may end up being the very basis for lawsuits filed in federal court. I'm a dad to 2 young girls. Senator Garrett, I'm a parent, and I'm voicing my concerns. In a few weeks, my daughter Gwen will start playing youth soccer. I'm excited for that opportunity for her. We all want to ensure a level playing field when it comes to sports. We want an inclusive environment. We want to encourage participation. Everyday K-12 extracurricular sports are not and should not be regulated the same way we regulate Olympics and elite athletes in similar competitions and athletic fields. Applying regulations meant for elite athletes to all students as part of their educational experience is unnecessary, but there is better guidance on this issue than the approach taken by this ham-handed legislation. Success in school sports is really about practice. It's about self-discipline, access to good facilities and coaches, and yes, even money to obtain outside training. The overwhelming majority of transgender youth, like most kids, don't play at elite levels. They just want to play everyday school sports and participate with their friends and peers, and do so in a way that is part of and complementary to their academic work and pursuits in our educational settings. Girls and women do face very serious gender discrepancies in school sports that this bill does nothing to address. Just look at a recent timeline of moments that should have inspired us to, quote, save women's and girls' sports. And think about the reactions that this body took when they happened. March 2021, not in the Wayback Machine, just last year, NCAA tournament participants have to go to social media to expose and force a correction of the unconscionable imbalance between men and women in tournament quality facilities, equipment, and just overall treatment. Crickets. No rush to file a bill to fix that problem. March 2021. We had a bill in this body dealing with name, image, likeness legislation. It was here. We could have taken it up. It's the specific problem jeopardizing the highest individual marketing earning potential years for female college athletes, athletes who came to us, like Caitlin Clark, who actively appealed to this legislature to do something to advance their interest, to protect their interests. The funnel deadline passed, and nothing. Today, we still have high schools telling girls that they are lady hawks, lady falcons, brunettes, and not hawks, falcons, or bears like their better funded male counterparts. Nothing in this bill to fix those imbalances. We love to honor the accomplishments of Shawn Johnson. We celebrate Caitlin Clark. We congratulate Lolo Jones. We're proud of Megan Gustafson. But the same Republican legislators who cry about saving women's sports will keep ignoring the very real inequalities that both men and women in sport have brought up and brought to our attention. We cannot ignore how much harder it really is and continues to be for girls and women to succeed in their athletic pursuits. And it has nothing to do with transgender athletes. Maybe if the amazingly successful U.S. soccer women didn't have to file lawsuits to get fair pay, and the NCAA didn't so obviously treat women's sports as a second tier, and Iowa high schools were able to fund girls' sports on equal footing as they do boys' sports, we wouldn't be so concerned about the need to save girls' sports from a tiny fraction of transgender athletic participation. Just let the kids play. Nobody is stealing medals. The International Olympic Committee and every other major sports organization on the planet has found a way to embrace transgender athlete participation in a way that ensures fair competition and doesn't do this cruel, divisive, and dehumanizing thing that this body may do today. If the majority of our legislators here in this state had a tenth of the heart, compassion, and sporting behavior that we see from transgender athletes overcoming obstacles and stepping up to compete, the athletes this bill dehumanizes, I would be a far better example for the sporting world. If we want to support girls' sports, we should be doing so by providing more funding and more opportunities to play and participate, creating stronger laws to protect female athletes, not banning transgender youth from participating in school sports. Excluding transgender girls will do nothing to solve the real issues and imbalances in this system. We should not let this bill distract us from taking the meaningful steps to address gender disparities and racial disparities in athletics that prevent competition and participation. That's what we should be doing here today. Supporting girls' sports, supporting women's athletics. That part's missing in this bill. I urge my colleagues to support girls' sports and not support this misguided bill. Thank you.